Alrighty. So we are here in 2023 after a number of years of wanting to be in this very same position. Welcome to the Stall for X podcast, where we will help you gain better, gain a better understanding with employment and also connect you with our careers in the HR world and give you a little tips and tricks of how to get around the BS in the HR field. So I will let Renee announce herself and give you her story, and then we'll begin from there. Let's get it, Renee.
Well, how much of my story are you wanting here?
Hey, whatever it takes.
My name is Renee Waterman. I've been in human resources since 2006. Um, Done everything from HR assistant to benefits specialist to generalist, and most recently business partner. So worked in all areas of HR, and yeah, that's about it in a nutshell.
Oh, she's holding back from y'all. Ain't no way. All right, so I'll introduce myself, but then we gonna get into it. So, I'm Eric. I have been in HR since what is this? 2010. I am experienced in the field of recruiting, traveling to college campuses, hiring college students, more likely recent grads, also heavily associated with Department of Defense in recruiting for corporate roles and making sure that people have a job overall. My biggest thing is people being employed, people having stability and living their, best life for them, their families, having a work-life balance, and basically controlling your own career. I met Renee in 2019, correct?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about it, maybe March or April of
Okay.
2019.
In 2019, when I wanted to start this, and believe it or not, I did not pick up doing the podcast professionally again until now, because I've always felt that after her podcast, which was actually on a different radio show from one of my other podcasts, it just really connected with me in a sense of I really need somebody else to make it all make sense and to help pull it through. And being as though she's been in HR for as long as she has an incredible story. And I've always told her this that she needs to basically put it out there and allow other people to hear it so they can be inspired because she's had some trials and tribulations. I've been through some experiences myself. But overall, she's just a great individual, and we both have similar HR experiences where we started our careers with not having our schooling completed, but we were in positions and trusted enough to be in a position where we can become employed because everything isn't always about a degree, and I strongly believe that experience comes a long way, and having the hunger and the will to I guess, let's say, wanting something more than another candidate, but not really being that qualified, but you're willing to learn. Now, Renee, I'm going to hop back to you. So I want you to tell your story about your interview for your HR job that you were trying to get at the time. So take it away.
All right. So in 2006, from a very small town, did the ROP thing in high school, did the business classes, and I was placed with a doctor doing insurance billing and medical assisting. And that really was my only experience in office work and whatnot. But my ex-husband was being stationed in San Diego. So I interviewed for an HR generalist position for the Salvation Army Divisional Headquarters for the Sierra Del Mar Division in Southern California. Um, My stepmom was an HR director. My sister worked in HR. So I've always been surrounded by HR. So it was something that really intrigued me. I think more than anything, I'm just nosy and I like knowing people's business. So it was always kind of fun listening to the stories that they would tell. But I went into the position or into the interview and basically told the director and the assistant director that I knew that they had more qualified people. I know that they had people with education and experience, but if they wanted somebody that had drive and passion and wanted to learn the position, they weren't going to find better than me. And the HR director asked me to sit in their waiting area for about 5-10 minutes. I thought that was really weird. I'd never been asked to go sit in a waiting room after an interview. And she came back in the office and offered me the position. And that started my career in HR.
There you go. All right. So the beginning of my HR career, I pretty much was in the same situation. I won't call it a desperate situation, but when you're hungry, you go after what you want, no matter what the requirements are, what the qualifications are. Somebody might call you back for an interview, and in both of our cases, we were called for an interview. Uh, I help most people today, families, friends, and clients, with their resumes to gain better employment or to gain employment in general. And this came with building skills over a number of years. And it came from my very first HR interview. And actually, that person's birthday is today. So again, shout out to Miss Sharon Austin at TV One. She was a good mentor of mine, even though she was a boss. I still looked up her because she made me recognize all the faults that I had within my interview. The main one that she made me recognize was that I said a lot. That's kind of a big thing for a lot of people who are not used to speaking, or a lot of people who are just trying to rush to get things out. And you even said this when we talked yesterday about how you don't think you said everything in the interview, but you was trying to get everything out. And I think Sharon gave me a way of thinking before I spoke about what I was going to say next, because it was kind of like I was rumbling, but I really wasn't. I was just trying to make sure I was getting everything out. So
See, and
I thought I did okay. Huh?
I over talk. Like I don't know how
Yeah,
to
yeah. I was
filter it.
the same. Yeah, I was
I'm,
the
yeah.
same. Yeah, I was the same way. And it comes with, really wanting something so bad. And I think that the other person can actually see that, so they don't really fault you for that. But as you grow and as you gain more experience with interviewing and going to apply for different jobs and having different positions and actually working in it, like we both work in HR, I think that, those are that's the start of the process of making sure that you can help somebody else along the way. Like I'm forever grateful for that experience with my first interview with HR, because it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot in the first interview, and then I got the call to come back for the second interview, and that was all I had to do was the second interview. Me and Renee talked yesterday about these third interview processes. Like, come on, company, some of y'all just doing too much. Is either you want me or you don't. Like, to be honest, like, how much more do you really need to look into to say, hey, we want you to work for us? So the biggest thing about that is I'm not too strict when it comes to interviews, but some people can really, really go overboard. Um, my first interview session, I thought I did very well. I'm sure that most people probably think they did very well. But then when you have somebody that helps recognize the things that you did within the interview, it makes you stronger for the next time. So when I came in for my second interview, there was a whole room, whole team of people. And you talking about pressure.
Panel interviews.
Huh?
So panel interviews, you gotta love them.
Yeah, when you talk about pressure, that's the pressure. And I'm gonna be honest, everybody, you know, we've all done it. We all judge people when we see them. I'm not gonna lie, I work in HR, but you can't come in here with blue hair. Like actually, I had somebody come to an interview with blue hair, and I'm like, I know you're kidding me. Like, and I mean, this is a college educated person now, came in with blue hair. So, just imagine the pressure of you coming into an interview and you have a team full of people and you have to sit in front of them, you have to answer questions this way, answer questions that way. It throws you all off your game. But a confident person and someone who really wants the job and has the hunger and the drive like me and Renee did, it's a straight attack. Like you have to go in there, you have to dig in deep with your claws, you have to make sure that you make them remember you. Like one thing that I always tell all of my candidates is number one, scheduling is a big thing. Trust me, because I do them and I've done it before. Scheduling is a big thing. I always like to go last. I always like to be the last person to be scheduled. But if you're not last, you should always be the first if the option is open. Because you need to leave them with an impression for them to remember you. And Renee has a situation coming up that she's done that as well. But we understand why, because she's learned over the years of how to, make people remember her. She's worked in it. She has the confidence. She built everything up to get where she needs to be. And hopefully I could be saying congratulations soon. We all can. Okay. Don't give me a smirk. You got to smile on that one. Come on now. So HR is a big, big industry. No company can run without an HR department. Um, I love HR. Do you love HR?
I do. Definitely have had some moments that it's hard and you really do think about it a little bit and if it's the
Right.
right fit. But at the end of the day, I'm a very human person and I connect with people on a very human level. And in an organization, you really don't get more human and more interactive with employees than working in HR. But definitely can test you some days.
Yeah, that's true. We're all tested. Trust me. Yes, I'm sure there's plenty other individuals out here that's been tested in the HR departments. I never really liked the other parts of it, like benefits and compensation and all of that. Don't give me no payroll. I don't want none of that. I just want to talk to people. I want to hire people. I want to get people placed, and I push on. That's hey. I do check up with my candidates though. Do you do that? The people that
Well,
you hire?
Well, because I don't really do recruiting side of it, I do more the onboarding side of it. But I'm usually the first person that they have interaction with. So
Mhm.
they always have my name, my phone number, my email, and I always tell them on their first day if you're not sure where to go or you're not sure what to ask or whatnot, just come see me. And if I can't answer your question, I can point you in the right direction. And once you've established that relationship with them, they usually come back to you throughout the course of their career there.
Right. And my two biggest key components that I do for my hires, anniversaries and birthdays. They'll never forget who you are. That's also the key to keeping your employees year after year after year after year. Trust me, it works. I always tell people when I hire them, especially the recent hires, like recent grads, you know, most people always say, "What's your 5 year plan?" I always say, "What's your long term goal?" Because I want to know why you want to be here, how you can help the team. How can we help you achieve your goals? How can we create a better work life balance? And overall, how can we make you happy in the situation? Because none of us can do this if we're not happy. It will never work because you'll have a company full of Angry people trying to do anything they want to do, creating all kind of chaos. So this has been a long time coming for just being here today and making sure that this podcast is something that can help people, can ease the pain and the stress of working in any field, not just HR, but in the workforce overall. Because there's a lot of headaches, there are a lot of hiccups, there's a lot of things that you do know, whether you've been in your career for 1 year, 5 years, 25 years, 30 years. We all can learn something new. So trust me, you want to stay tuned in. And solving for X makes you the X factor. So we want to make sure that you understand that you are the X factor. You are the the problem, no, the solution to the problem for that company. Lord, I just got off another one. I'm trying to get it out. So you're the X factor. We want to make sure that we plug you in and make sure that you're very well equipped. We want to make sure that you are in tune with your career. We want to make sure that you are doing everything that you need to do to be happy in your position. Renee, what makes you happy about working?
I think for me, it really does come down to, am I making an impact and do I have a place on this team? I am 100% goal oriented. So if I don't have something that I'm working on, or I don't feel challenged, or I don't feel like I'm contributing to an overall mission, I
Mm-hmm.
get very bored and very stagnant. And that's a dangerous place for me to be in. I always want to strive to increase my knowledge, to increase my skills, to increase my networks. So if I don't have some aspect of that, I get very bored, and me bored in a job, I just will start hating the job. I think for me, like you said, I've been a benefits specialist, and I think benefits is actually one of my least favorite jobs because it's the same stuff day in and day out. You don't really have a lot of variety of what's going on. And I actually did look forward to open enrollment time because open enrollment was crazy and chaotic, and I enjoyed it. So, like having a constant, that's why I loved HR generalist and business partner out of all my jobs, is because you kind of get to touch on everything and you're constantly rotating job duties, and every day's different, and that's what I enjoy in my position. So that's what I'm always looking for.
Nice, nice, nice. So let's see how do you think people would work better together in the HR department?
I think when you work in HR, you have a lot of different personalities and a lot of different goals. Me, I'm very much about growing and developing and wanting to learn, but I think sometimes that can be mistaken for um, stepping on toes or like trying to take over supervisors' positions. Sometimes it comes across as having too much initiative, and why do you have that much initiative? Um, so, but then you have other people that really they're there just there to work. They're just there to collect a paycheck, and they want the same things day in and day out. So really knowing each of your coworkers and what makes them tick, and what, like, I think the more you know about people, the more you understand why they do what they do. For me, I don't understand people that can just do the same thing day in and day out and not challenge themselves, but they don't understand why I'm crazy and why I always want to like a challenge. So it's just really finding a balance and agreeing that not all people are the same, and we each bring something different to the table. Where I'm high energy and can be intense, other people are chilled and laid back, and that balances me out
Mhm.
from being, over the top sometimes. So it's just
I would agree. I need to be busy too. I can't just like I a desk job. I never. I could say probably when I work, like you said, stepping on toes. Now this story comes from when I was working at a famous candy factory. We won't say the name, but the office built all of these creative spaces and places for you to go, pods to take a nap, rooms to work in to be more creative, demo rooms to go in to bring your laptop in and talk, telephone rooms to go in and do your phone calls and just have your own little space, but actually get your work done.
Mhm.
But, you're trying to do all this, employee morale stuff and get people actively involved and using these spaces. But then you get in trouble for doing so. That's the problem that I don't like about making the office something that it shouldn't be.
Mhm.
Because you can't tell me that I could step away from my team area and go to one of these creative spaces, but then say I'm spending too much time. I'm not there every single day, all day long. I'm there an hour or two one day, maybe next week go back again, or maybe go 2 times a week. But I'm not a team player. How's that possible? You set me up for this situation. So, there came a time where I wanted to speak to one of the higher ups that was moving to the Washington, D.C. area. And someone told me that I was stepping on their toes by going to speak with their boss. And I was like, well, we all have calendars. We all can request meetings. We all can talk to one another. So what's the big issue? So most people don't like you talking to their boss without directly going through them, which I really don't understand. But I just want a general conversation. I wanted to see, what his goals would be for the team. Him coming from a different area, a more rural area, of what it would be like living here in a major city, and how will we have a team that will, you know, build together, have team outings. What does all of our future progress look like here, as far as stepping up the ladder? Like, most people don't want you to do that at all.
Mhm.
And that was the biggest thing. And we had to agree to disagree. And I had to separate, because there's no growth in something like that. Like, you can't tell somebody you're stepping on their toes and you don't even have any type of malicious intent behind it. It just doesn't make sense. Um, so for anybody else out there who has experienced that situation, you have to figure it out for you, whether you're going to stay or whether you're going to go. My advice for you is to leave. And I'm just being honest, because that's somewhere you're going to be and you're not going to have any input. You're not going to be able to do, any type of, step increases or whatever the company may call it to reach the next level, because everybody is so basic. That's just pretty much what it is. Everybody wants to stay in the same position. And I didn't want to be a recruiter on that same level. I wanted to be in a better position with some of the other positions that they had. And if you have a company where there's opportunities to go and grow in another city, I encourage you to go, because you'll never know what may happen. Me and Renee met over social media. LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so we met on LinkedIn, which is a professional network. Now, if LinkedIn gave us the opportunity to connect with each other, but we couldn't speak to each other, what sense would that make? It's the same thing. So I was fortunate enough to, let's say, get her on a podcast, and we did a podcast called Networking for the Workforce, and it was one of the biggest podcasts that I ever had on my channel, and people would ask about it all the time. And I've shared it so many times, and I've told my story about it before, because I've applied for over 600 jobs at one time and didn't get not one call back. And that's honesty, because I didn't have a degree, I didn't have the experience that they were looking for, and it just wasn't a good fit. And I'm giving you this message because I want to make sure that you understand that you don't have to be everywhere. You don't fit everywhere, and that's okay because something better is coming along. Now, Renee, when you were shopping for jobs in the past, let's get to that one. What were your struggles?
I did when I took that HR generalist job, I did not have education. And that director was probably my biggest mentor of my career. She really did see something in me. And when she got ready to retire, she came to me and told me that I had all the potential in the world, but the one thing holding me back was my lack of education. And unfortunately, in the HR world, a degree is a necessity, and you are likely not to even pass the screening process without that education. And as much as I understand it from a point, I don't. You can teach me skills, you can teach me how to do a job, but you can't teach my passion or my attitude or my willingness to learn. So I think there's too much emphasis placed on having a piece of paper. All that piece of paper says is I did my homework and I passed my test. That says nothing about me as a person other than I can finish an assignment. Um, when I moved from California to Florida, I stayed unemployed for 6 months and I applied for hundreds of positions. I had probably 20, 30 interviews, 6 second interviews, told I was second choice about 6 or 7 times. And finally, one of the directors said, "Can I give you some advice?" I'm like, "Yes, please." Because I thought with a bachelor's and 15 years experience, I have no problem getting a job. I don't understand why I'm unemployed. And she told me if it came down between me and somebody else and they had a HR certification, that they were going to get the job over me. And that one was a hard one to swallow because that degree or that certificate is not a cheap certificate. It takes a lot of studying. It's an expensive test to take. And if you don't pass it, you have to take it again. Comes with the membership. And I still don't have that piece of paper. I have my bachelor's,
And
but I
how
don't
much
have
did the
it.
membership cost? How
What's
much
that?
did the membership cost? How much
The
did the
membership
membership cost?
The membership itself is about $200 a year, and then you can only take the test twice a year during certain periods. And then if you have the membership, it's $300 every time you take the test. If you don't have the membership, it's $400. And then the study materials were upwards of $700 to $1,000 depending on what materials you wanted. So it's an investment that you're making. And I was unemployed and I couldn't afford the investment. So um, that was definitely a struggle.
Was
And like
more
they didn't care that I
challenging for
had a
you?
bachelor's. Hmm?
Yeah. No, I'm saying it made it much more challenging for you that you already had the degree and still had to go get the certificate.
Yeah, and they're judging me based off of my resume, which my resume is extensive. It has 15 years. I have an associate's, I have a bachelor's, and it's this one certification that was stopping me from getting jobs. And it just blows my mind that you can have the amount of experience and knowledge that you have, but because I don't have this piece of paper, it makes getting jobs in a city very difficult.
Exactly. So what would you recommend for a college grad who graduating with an HR degree?
If they are graduating with an HR degree, I really do think that the location depends. I'm from a small town where we had 3 employers that were big enough to have human resources departments. So it was not a necessity where I was from. And then I moved to a city where there's 50 other people applying for the same position that I'm applying for. And to them, that certification makes a big difference. So if you are looking to do your HR career, you may have to look at that certification because it definitely makes a difference here in Florida.
Exactly. So it's the continuing education after the degree what
Mm-hmm.
matters.
Yeah.
And my thing is, why don't you include this with the degree?
That is crazy. Like you're right. Like that would be if you're doing a degree in mine is business administration with a concentration in HR management. But having that
Hmm.
extra class to take a SHRM certification would be great because it would be covered in my degree. It's not extra money that I'm spending after the fact. That'd be a great option to put into any of the HR programs at a college.
Yes. Tell you, this money changes everything.
It does.
It makes sense that you have to go the extra mile after you already just took a whole tour to get a degree. After you already knew that the degree was the first thing that you needed just to get in the door. To get further in the door, you need a certificate.
Yep.
Which is crazy.
And because they do a lot of these keyword searches on your resume, like there's not people looking at each individual resume and reading it. They're doing keyword searches, phrases, whatnot. And if you're missing that part of your resume, yours isn't even going to come up in a search. So
yep, and that's what we would call the applicant tracking system. And I think it's the worst thing. I mean, because working as a recruiter, I'm a people person. So if I see your resume, I want to call. I don't want to just look at your resume and make judgment like, oh, I don't see what I'm looking for, and that's it. If I have resumes in front of me or applicants that apply, I'm on the phone and call. I call all of my candidates. I just think it sucks that you have to go through all of that, get a job, because I know how frustrating it is to first go through the position of you're not educated enough. Then second, you're not good enough once you get the degree, because either number one, you lack the experience or you don't have certification.
Yeah.
And that's the wildest thing I've ever heard of. The applicant tracking system, it scores you based on what you have in your. So yours can be 87%, somebody else could be 100%. So it will take yours and slide another box and give you all of the candidates that is from like say like 96 to 100. So therefore, guess what? Your resume never was seen by anybody. Nope. Nobody. They didn't even open it up. And that's the thing I don't like. Like, take the time to actually know somebody. Take the time to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm calling you. You apply for this position. My thing is, I want to know more about you. I don't even look at your resume like that. I want to know more about you, what you've been going through, what's your goals, why you need a job right now. And it's not necessary. I mean, it's not even really that important about why, but I want to hear your hunger. Like, you can hear that when you talk to people. You can't do that from a piece of paper.
Yeah, but I think I think people like you and me are sometimes an anomaly. I work with recruiters that do not have that same passion that you do. They're just trying to fill a position and get a commission. Same with positions. They're just trying to fill seats. And like sometimes it doesn't matter what the quality of the person is. Do they look good on paper? Can they make this happen? And we're going with bottom line and whatnot. Like, it's scary how much we've gotten away from finding the right people for the job and becoming more about bottom lines and making a dollar than like and I don't think the people realize that you would lower your turnover if you hired the right people and you took the time to find the right people. You guys spend all this money advertising and doing all this, and then you put the wrong people, and in 6 months you're trying to do the job again. So what you're doing really isn't working, but you want to talk about the bottom dollar, talk about your turnover rates and how much you keep paying to fill those seats.
And it's not cheap, because sometimes when you pay, when I pay for ads and stuff, they're in the thousands. And then on top of that, if you have to hire an outside agency, how much do you think that agency wants? Yeah. Even more thousands. I paid up to almost $40,000 before to pay a third party to find somebody to hire for something that was hard to hire for. But it's not the fact that it's hard to hire for. A lot of times, even with me and my career, almost everywhere I've been, it's always the hiring manager for me. They don't
Mhm.
move fast enough. They sit on things, but then they rush you to find a candidate. But then when you find a candidate, it's, oh, can we find better? Is it more? What more are you looking for? Like,
It's
why
those
don't you just pick up the
it's those kids back in school that like they always wanted bigger and better, and they thought that they could get bigger and better, and like not realizing that they're just picking quantity over quality, and like they just don't they
But
just
these
don't
are
see
like the season. These are the seasoned professionals. So what's the excuse for them?
they just I really don't think that they see an issue with the way they do things. And then if you really do have good quality people, those people are going to get snatched up. So if you're waiting, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to make a decision, and you offer that position, guess what? They've already been picked up. They're not interested anymore. And now we're starting from scratch because you took too long. And all those people that were good have moved on.
Exactly. And how I recruit as bills are due. That's how I recruit. If I talk to you today, I'm trying to hire you to work next week or the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And if so many people and hiring managers want more and more and more, and I done submitted 10 people, what more are you looking for? And it's not just about filling the role, it's about finding the right fit. What happened to that? I think that goes out the window after school because the people that are in the workforce now that has been doing it for a number of years, I don't think they follow that same rule. Like it's not all about the right fit. It's about filling the role and just putting somebody in that place. But like you said, the turn rate is high, and
Mm-hmm.
it's high for a lot of companies. And every company struggles with retaining employees, but at the same time, you have to figure out how you're treating the employees. Because if they're not happy, your work ain't gonna be the same. And that's in anybody. Because I know me, I ain't gonna lie. There'll be days where I sit at my computer just to sit there. Especially when I had to go to the office. Like, I don't want to do it. I just don't. And I'm sure there's plenty of other people who's been in that same position before. Like the whole week could just be blah. You just really don't want to do anything. And
Yeah.
it's because you're not happy, you're not excited about doing the job. And I would never place anybody in a position where I feel like they're just going to be, doing the job just to do it. I need to hear something from you. I need to hear a struggle. I need to hear hunger. I need to hear I have things I'm working on. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I need to hear. Because if I don't hear that, I can't put you there. And especially if I'm putting you on a team that I'm really, really good with, they're gonna look at me like, I know you didn't send this, not you. And I'm like, no, that's not gonna work. So there's been positions where people were hired, and then when they start their first, you know, week or two, the manager like, I don't think this is gonna work, and then they have to go. It's nothing you can do. But these are the people that you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't choose the people that I wanted to put in place. You chose them people. So now, guess what? We back at zero.
When you place somebody, do you talk to the HR person that's onboarding them about how they're doing during the onboarding process?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We everybody in the HR department should be working together.
Well,
We
I'm just saying because like when you worked in HR long enough, you can gauge pretty early on how well an employee is going to do at a company. You can tell your first 90 days are supposed to be the best that you've got to give. You know that you're under a microscope, you know that you're being evaluated. And if this is the best you got while you're onboarding, it's not going to get better once you're hired.
right.
So when you have these people that take days to start their onboarding process, or they're giving you attitude, or they're not wanting to do something. You're like, okay, those are red flags, but we'll go with it. I mean, I'll take little notes and stuff, and then we'll start their onboarding and we'll do their orientation. And if your first questions are, how soon can I take off, and how, I know we're in for some trouble, and I've gotten pretty good at gauging. Like,
They
yeah,
want off every Friday,
yeah.
every Monday.
Like I've got it with, and like there was one person, I'm like, they're not gonna last 6 weeks. They lasted 4. I'm like, told you.
Yeah, it ends up that way. But I think everybody should have good relationships with the entire HR department.
Mhm.
Like, I'm be honest, there were some HR departments that I worked with, and I didn't like most of the people. But you'll never know I didn't like you. I'm just being honest. You'll never know. Hey, what's going on? You did you get the onboard? Yeah, I got it. Did you schedule it? Yeah, I scheduled it. They're coming in on Monday. I said, okay. So they come in. I'll stop by the conference room. I'll say, hey, we'll talk and chit chat for a while. Hey, all right, have a good day. Stuff like that. Like, you would never know. And I'll be like, they are so lazy. I mean, I'm just honest. I'm very upfront with people, but I
No,
don't like to make
I'm
people
the
feel
I'm
bad.
the same way, because I work with very young recruiters. Like, the recruiters I work with are fresh out of college. This is their first corporate job, and I'm a seasoned HR professional. So
Mm.
when I'm dealing with recruiters and they're not like, and I'm like, no, that's no, the employees and candidates don't run us. We tell them what we need, we explain it to them. And I actually had to do a meeting last week where I had to go tell the recruiters it's the subtle art of talking back and treating them like, okay, this is what I need. Here's your options. Now, of those options, which would you like? And they're like, oh, so they think they have a choice, but
Yeah.
there's subtleties in getting what you need from people, but let, you can't be a pushover. HR and recruiting is very like, you got to hold your ground.
Very sensitive.
Yeah. Like, it's very
Do
sensitive.
one thing wrong, you wrong forever.
Yeah.
No matter all the thousands of rights you've done with everything. Once you do one thing wrong, it's over.
Yeah.
It was HR.
So
First
I
time.
do like working with the younger recruiters, because you can see that they're hungry. They just don't know quite how to get there, and they need somebody else to kind of guide them and say, okay,
That's
have you
good.
thought about doing this? Have you said it this way? Have you explained it that? And I've sent them messages in Teams, put that in the message, and they will take my messages, and that's what they sent to the candidates, but it gets responses, and then they're learning the tricks and the
And then
trades.
they're shocked, like, whoa, I really didn't think that we'll get this. And
Yeah.
like, yeah. But my biggest red flag when placing somebody or getting them through the process, it's always the background check. Especially when it comes to references, because people like to stretch the truth. We won't say lie. We'll say stretch the truth. And if you have a candidate that's giving you people to call and it just don't seem right, or these people are telling you, oh, well, that was my coworker, we worked together. You have no bosses, no supervisors, no nothing. That's a big red flag for me. Sometimes I have stopped the process.
You want to hear my favorite background story?
What?
Yes. So I had a gentleman, I'll call him Gary Jones, because that's pretty generic. Um, and he's like, hey, I got this charge. I'm like, okay, get the background back. The charge is there. It's aggravated assault. And I said, this has to be adjudicated. Are there details that you want to give me that, can help with the adjudication review, and that you would want the committee to consider when they're reviewing this? So he tells me that he was breaking up with his girlfriend and she went crazy and she called the cops. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, because, people can get crazy in the heat of moments and whatnot. So I went with it. I'm like, okay, cool. And then he told me that he had a lawyer and the lawyer was clearing this up. And I'm like, okay, well, can you you know, get something from the lawyer that says that this is being reviewed, that would really help. And he sends me a screenshot of text messages, and it says, John Jones, lawyer. And I'm like, okay, I'm still going with it, but now it's getting a little sketchy. And you know how people have tones when they text? Like, I know how you talk in a text message, I talk. And the back and forth is very similar to each other, like the punctuation, the wording. I'm like, okay, I'm observant like that. So I'm just going to pretend that I'm not seeing that. And so he comes back, and I said, well, can you get something from your lawyer on letterhead that I can submit with your package? And he's like, sure. He went to the internet and did some downloadable template, misspelled my name, didn't delete the lines that the template had. It was misspelling. It was no way in shape or form how a lawyer would talk. And it was like the lawyer's email was garyjones@gmail.com or garyjoneslawyer@gmail.com. Like,
.com at Gmail.
yeah. So I'm like, all right. So I'm still playing along. Like, I know that, okay, this is that I'm going through the motions and I'm letting this guy think that he has me. And I Google the address that he put on there. And it's a lawyer's building. It's a big building full of lawyers. I call every single lawyer's office asking for Gary Jones, not one of them. So I messaged back the guy and I'm like, hey, I need that on letterhead. Da-da-da. The guy ghosted me. They ended up rescinding the offer, but it was amazing how much he tried to play this out and hoping that I would either be stupid or I would just give up. And he just kept, and then finally he had nothing to like sit on, and he ghosted me. But I always did think that was like, one, you never lie to a woman. We know how to, like, I'm going to call every single lawyer's office.
But the language was not like an attorney at all.
So no, and it was all misspelled, and then the email was a dead giveaway. Who has Gary Jones lawyer at gmail.com? So it just, and I work in a recruiting and staffing agency, so we actually do have a high percentage of backgrounds that will come back with some kind of hit, and some of it is people just needing a second chance and whatnot. So you can kind of go with that, but then you have other things like this that are just like, yeah, nope.
Yeah, that's true. I don't not proceed when I get something on a background check. I kind of allow them to work on it though. I do think that's on them to figure that situation out, and really probably should have said that up front and control that situation to where it would clear itself out. Because number one, I had that situation myself. Even did it come? I think it even came up on my recent background check, which I need to double check again too, because I caught a firearm charge when I was 19, when I came home to visit from college. And a long story short, it was not my fault. So, that was something that I had to go through for like over a year, and it was supposed to have been expunged and never show up on my record. But things come up. Sometimes it come up, sometimes it doesn't. But I made all of that clear in my application. So when I brought it to my boss, she was like, is this what it is? And yeah, like, you can kind of gauge if somebody's really telling the truth or not, just like how you had your suspicions. But, it's not a dead giveaway that you're not going to be hired. And I know a lot of people who don't apply for a position because they're like, oh, it's going to come up on my background anyway. But most people don't know that you can do a write-up for it. Or like you said, you can get a lawyer to, represent you on your part of figuring out what happened and letting them clear it up for you.
Well, I mean, we kind of had to go through that with my husband. Like you said, like, you guys know if you have a record, you know what's going to come up on your background. And my husband had done 21 years in the military and retired and went to school for radiology school and had to go through a licensing background, and they went all the way back, and stuff from when my husband was 17, 18, 19 showed up on his background, and we had to go pull all of his court records, and we had to provide explanations, and we had to provide, you know, like he's not been in jail since he was 19, and like he went to the military and changed his life around. It was very hard for my husband because he was very embarrassed by having to, one, that it came up, and that he had to explain the charges that were on his record. And he made a life out of himself. He's never been in trouble since then. That's why he went in the military, was to get his life together. So like, get it, like it happens. But when you have those circumstances where you've made choices that maybe weren't the best for your future, you do what you can to fix it. And hopefully somebody out there gives you a shot and can see past it. But you have, like you said, you have to do your work. You have to present that, like, hey, I know this is going to come up, but this is who I am. This is what I'm capable of. This is how I've changed things. And you just have to sell that, and you have to mean it, because you're not going to sell it if you don't mean it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And yes, it is embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very embarrassing. Especially when you've been working for so long, or you've been pushing yourself away from things and changing your life. I was facing 36 years in prison for something I didn't do, but for a situation that I was in. And it was something that I was warned about all my life by my parents, and especially my father. But I never believed that he would leave me in jail.
Yeah.
Do you think he left me in jail? Do you think he came to get me?
You want to make sure you learned your lesson.
I begged and pleaded. I said, I didn't do anything. I swear to you, Pop, I didn't do it. Da da da. Nope. No bail. No come to rescue me. So it's stuff like that. And then it triggers you. It really does. It triggers you, because now it gives people a sense of, oh, well, what were you like before? And you don't want to have that thing hanging over your head like that. So when I was talking to my boss about it, she was like, well, if everything's clear with you, I believe you, we can go forward, and this is that and the third. But, it's very embarrassing to have to keep explaining yourself like that. And I think that even
especially
though
when you've tried to put that's not who you are, and you've tried to put that side of you to bed, and it keeps getting brought up. So no matter what you do in your life, it always takes you back, and you just keep trying to move forward. So it's very hard when your past keeps getting thrown back at you, when that's not who you are. That's not what life you live. Like, I just need to be able to focus on my future and stop looking backwards.
Then to go back to the courthouse. Then I had to go through records. Then I had to go to the clerk. Then I had to pay all these fees again to get copies of something you probably already had copies of, or you could print out on the internet. But they don't want that. They want it directly from the courts. They want it stamped. They want you to pay the fee for it. They want you to pay the background people or whoever that you need to send it to, ship it off to them. Like, it's a lot. And you talking about some people, like, at the time, I didn't have a job. So I didn't have money to do all that.
Yeah.
But my boss was, comfortable enough to let me go through the process. And then if anything else was needed, then I would have had to do it. But unfortunately, I submitted all of that stuff before. And like I said, if you have something on your background check, just speak up about it, because the first thing is honesty. Mm-hmm. Like, my stuff was dropped. It was, what they call it, Noel Prosecutor.
Noel, yeah, Prosecuto or something.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, if it was dropped, why is it still here? That means that I wasn't found guilty. I wasn't charged. Why is it still here?
But technically, I don't think they're allowed to use that against you if you're not convicted.
No. And that's the thing. It was supposed to be expunged. I got it expunged as soon as everything was over. And then as I started working over the years, like, it'll come up and then it doesn't come up. And then it'll come up again. So I'm like, are you really removing these records, or you just keeping?
Yeah, and it does depend also on the company and what type of background they run and how far back they go.
Right. Oh yeah, they trust me, HR, they're gonna run it back.
Because like where I work here, we usually only go back about 7 years. So anything after 7 years, they don't. Our our background company doesn't report it to us.
Okay.
Like it might show up on the background, but they won't use anything older than 7 years.
Right. And working in the military sector, they go back.
Yeah.
So, I was like, well, dang, I don't even remember this address. They was like, where did you live here? And I'm like, I was in college. I really remember that address. It was like, well, you live 3 different places. Okay, you know better than me. Tell me what the address is.
You tell me where I lived and how long I lived there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need that for my arsenal.
Yeah, like really? Like, come on now. And they was like, well, why did you move to the West Coast? And I'm like, what? I wanted a better life. I wanted to get away from home. That's the reason why I left. Like, but you're bringing it up. Hello. Now you're throwing it back in my face.
When I did my background for the aviation company, they had an investigator show up at my house, 2-hour like interrogation on, and like they even went into my counseling, and I admitted that I had been to counseling after my divorce, and they wanted to know what was said in my why I went to counseling, if I was on any medications from that counseling, and what the end result was. And I felt so violated. That one, it's a man, and so I have a abusive past. So trying to explain this to a gentleman that I don't know and I have no relationship with, and I had to go through that to get this position. And it's the only position I've had that I've had to go through that, but I had to have a certain type of clearance to work for a government sector for the aviation company. But it is crazy how intense these interrogations are, and then who they go talk to. Like at one point, like my dad's girlfriend got interviewed, and like, well, what kind of person is she? And like, this is insane that you guys can even ask these questions.
Yeah, it's very violent. It's very violent. And like I said, it's very triggering to bring up something that's that old. Like I'm 37 now. You bring up someone when I was 19.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has the same mindset much now that they had at 19. And not saying I had a crazy mindset then, but that situation was be with the crowd, wrong place, wrong time. That was that. So it was nothing that I could do at all. But I got out of that situation, Lord willing, because I don't know what I would have did with 36 years in prison.
You wouldn't
I'll
have
tell
met
you
me.
now. Yeah, I know. And it would, and trust me, I probably wouldn't even be here because I couldn't do it. I don't know how they do it. Yeah, I did 20 years. I did 25. You proud of that? No.
They survived.
Yeah, you survived, but you don't know nothing now. You missed out on a whole universe. You into a new dimension. You don't know what's going on out here. Skills are gone, everything. I have family members who went to jail for an extensive time period, and I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Not at all. But that background process, yes. The only thing I would say is to be honest up front. And you can even say in your interview. It won't hurt you in an interview. Unless you have a malicious person interviewing. But I've always been honest in the interview.
I think in my situation with HR and having done interviews, I think if somebody comes to me and tells me what the situation was, what the outcome was, what they learned from it, and what they did to set their life different after, that says a lot for who they are as a person. You can tell me what you did and how you tried to overcome it and what you've done with your life since then that shows initiative, it shows passion, it shows that you're trying to put that behind you and live a different life. And I have a lot of respect for people that can overcome those adversities and come out stronger on the other end of it.
Exactly. Because we're all here. We all have challenges. We all go through different experiences, whether good or bad. Nobody can judge anybody. Point blank, period. I've never looked at any candidate and been like, oh, I'm not going to hire you because of this. No. I'm hiring you because I feel that you can make it. I feel that you have goals. I know that you have, a family, you need stability. You need to be employed.
Yeah.
Employment is the biggest thing. This world right now, it's changing. The workforce is really, really changing. And you see all the tech layoffs now. Remember they was throwing everybody into tech,
Yep.
and now look at tech. They have all these systems. They have what is it, Chat GPT,
Yeah.
where they have this new thing where you can code stuff now. So they got 80,000. It was one company I saw. It went from like 80,000 to like 15,000 employees. Why do they need you? Like it's crazy. I feel like they try to eliminate a lot and then create these robots to take over things. Like the
Well,
biggest thing that I hate is
don't call in
checkout.
sick and the robots don't talk back.
Well, you got a point there, but I don't like it. Like I went to my favorite fast food place is Checkers. Most people know it as Riley's in the South. But the first time I pulled up to the mic and a robot start talking, hi, how can we help you with your order today? Would you like to? I'm like, it threw me off. I was
Yeah,
like,
it threw me off.
it's people working inside. Who am I talking to? Or what is this? This is an automatic. I was like, what?
Did you
It
like?
was weird.
Did you place like the most complicated order that you could to see if it could keep up with you?
I almost did. It was weird.
I would have, because I would have been really intrigued by that, and I would have tried to like order the most complicated thing.
I just wanted a cheeseburger. That's all I wanted. A cheeseburger. She was offering all these other options. Do you like to try the waffle fries? I mean, what was it? Not waffle fries. What do they have? Funnel cake fries. I'm like, funnel cake fries. I said, oh no, this is too much. It was weird. It was. I even recorded it. I need to find it. The first time I pulled up to that machine, and I was like, what?
I'm gonna have to go to my Checkers and see if it has a robot.
I don't even know if it's the same company or do they have franchises. If they have franchises, it probably is.
Yeah, because
But
ours is a Checkers. It's down the road, but we have one too. But I don't ever go there, so.
oh, I
But
love Checkers fries. Oh my god, they always so hot.
no, I want the Culver's cheese curds.
Oh, see, I haven't tried Culver's yet. I've seen it, but I haven't tried it. I
They
might
have
try.
cheese curds.
Might try it one day. I might give a sample and give you a little update on it, but I haven't been there yet. But yeah, this is the start. Um, I'm looking forward to having more conversations to not only help people, but to help us grow together in our careers, to figure out the hard part. And you will definitely help me figure out the other side of HR because I like to learn more about recruiting, but you have to have an open mindset when it comes to HR. There's many components. And even though I don't like them, I can, possibly help somebody else who's looking to go into that part of HR. I think, two people that I know that just graduated HR degrees, but they don't know what they want to do. I said, you need a job. That's what you need to do.
Start there.
You need a job, and then you'll figure it out from there. This generation is not very social. Let me ask you this. So I had this candidate one time, recent grad. It was during the pandemic, and I never seen him before. And then when we went back to the office for a certain amount of time, he came out of one door. I came out of the door on the opposite end, and we met up to about the elevators in the hallway, and he just jetted back past and went back through the office door. And I was like, well, that was weird. And I was just going to the bathroom, and I think he might have been going to the bathroom too. But I was like, that was weird. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know how I should take this. I didn't look. I've never been a big person with just throwing racism out there first, but I was like, okay, he's younger. He's in a different generation. They're not that social. I know him because I'm basically training him to do the interview, to speak up, to voice himself, be confident when he speaks. Because he was very low toned and looking down. And I had to ask him on instant messenger, like, hey, what happened in the hallway there? Is everything okay? And he was like, yeah. He was like, I just don't see a lot of people and I don't talk to people. I was like, what? I was like, okay. I was like, but you're working on a team and are you not socializing with your team? So then there was an issue with that. And then I helped him with that issue because he wasn't really engaging with his team,
Yeah.
which is not a good thing. You can't do everything on your own. So he was working on projects and he was having all these issues. So that's why he was in the office because he was trying to do everything himself. He was trying to make sure that he had enough time to do stuff. But I'm like, you have to let your team help. So then his confidence went up. Then his work got better. Like, that was just a weird situation. Have you ever had that before?
I know for me, like I am very social at work, but I am at the heart of it, I am pretty introverted. So even though HR is my job and like it requires me extroverted, I'm very much an introvert.
Mm.
So when I came back, the first 15 months I had at the aviation company was all on Zoom. And when I had to come back in the office after working from home for 15 months, I
Right.
actually had a really, really hard time adjusting to being back around people. There
Mm.
was so much energy and so much because I very much feed off of people. And
Right.
it was a big HR team. There was about 17 of us. And I found it very overwhelming the
Mm.
first 6 months going back into the office because I didn't like, yes, I worked with them on Zoom and like in emails and stuff, but I hadn't been around people in a very long time and I kind of forgot how to people.
Yeah.
And it was very, very hard to get back into the workforce after COVID. So I'm not sure if that played a factor, but I was kind of the same way. Like I would just kind of take everything in and do it myself. And it would stress me out. I get very overwhelmed. Because I'm just trying to prove that I can. But
Mm.
I think sometimes people don't speak up because they don't want it to come across as they can't handle something or that they think that it makes them incompetent if they have to ask for help. But I
Right.
also do think that COVID changed a lot of people and it is very hard to be back around people when you've gone 15, 18 months without having to be around people.
I agree because I felt like an alien.
Yeah.
I went back to the office. It was dark, and I usually go early. I'm an early bird, so normally I go to the gym and then I go straight to work. But I came into the office. It was dark. I think only like a few office doors was open. And then I was there around like maybe like 7:30. So then around about like 8:30, 8:40-ish, people started coming in. And I was in my office and I basically like ran to close my door because it was so many sounds coming
Mhm.
from so many directions. And I was like, what? And from the pandemic, from being in the house, and at that time I was taking care of my ill grandmother and making sure she was okay, and it was just her and I, and just being in four walls for so long, and then going back to a setting like that. I really think that people who are going back to the office, I think jobs should be easing them into coming back, like coming back when they feel comfortable, like maybe 2 days a week or something like that. But a full fledged Monday through Friday, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. It was definitely like sensory overload going back into the office with that many people. And then like you had the people that really wanted to be background people and they were just so excited and so much energy. And I'm just like, I'm gonna need you to tone that down by like 10 because that's a lot and I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. That was the first time I ever felt really, really weird in my life. I was like, okay, there's too many people. Like I can't hear y'all talking like this. And it kind of made me feel like they were all in my head because I haven't heard people like this in so long. And I was like, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
No. I only stayed in the office for 4 hours. I had to go. I
And
didn't
see, like, and I'm back to the spot that like I want to be in the office. Like I don't like being at home. I don't like being isolated like that. It took me a long time to get readjusted back to life. So
right,
I'm not ready to go back to my little cubicle in my little desk area over here. Like I want to be around people. Um,
right.
so like I have adjusted back. So I couldn't do another pandemic. Like I can't. Like
Yeah,
people like me don't do well when we're isolated like that.
yeah. But you're an introvert though, remember?
I am, but I'm not like I'm a what do they call it? An ambivert, where you're like
I think so, yeah.
I am introverted, but I do know how to be extroverted when I need to be. Like it's part of the job having to do orientations and
Mm,
public speaking, and that never gets easier either. My heart still races, my voice still shakes. So there are definitely parts of my jobs that are very challenging for me, but
okay.
I've spent 15 years learning how to manage it. So
Well, interesting. That's something that we could talk about. I love to speak, so speak up and speak out. That's what
took you 3 years to get me on a podcast,
I
so
know. But we're here. we're
you won.
here. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up. I want to thank everyone who listened. Whether you hear us on a podcast or you hear us on somebody else's radio, share it with your friends. Like and subscribe to our podcast channel at SFX Podcast on Spotify Podcast, on Apple Podcasts. And Eric and Rene will be back with you. And always remember the golden rule. What happens on board stays on board. You see? This way. That way. That way. Chair. What happens on board stays on board. I got that
I'd be
from
erasing stuff just to throw you off.
huh?
I'd be erasing stuff on that board just to throw you off.
Oh no, I need my visualizer. That's why I teach my mentees and do my own corporate work. But it works. I'm actually waiting on another board. It's an addiction. Have you ever had a glass board before?
No.
You should get one. You will love it.
Okay.
You should get one. All right. So until next time, we will wrap this up and I will talk to you soon. Have a good week. Oh, be confident tomorrow. You're going to rake it in. So I can go, yay. All right. Have a good night. Relax and chill. And let me know what happened.
Sounds good.
All right. See you later.
Bye.